What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're going to be talking about some players I think are going to break out big time in 2024 for fantasy football. These are not players that are going under the radar. These are not players that are sleepers. If you are looking for that, you are in the wrong video, but these are players that have flashed, shown us some potential, and I think are going to transform into elite fantasy football superstars. If you are new to the channel, if this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. We have a goal of 3,000 subscribers by week 1, but without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video and let's start talking about some breakouts. So the first player that I want to talk about is going to be Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. And Drake London, he's one of my top picks for a breakout in fantasy football this year. Sure, his first 2 seasons were a bit underwhelming. He finished as the wide receiver 35 and 39, and only 6 total touchdowns in those years as well. But let's be honest, the quarterback situation in Atlanta has been rough. He's had to deal with Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and Taylor Heineke throwing him the football, so it's not exactly been a recipe for fantasy success. Now, despite those struggles, London has been targeted on 24.3% of his routes, which is top 10 for any receiver in their first 2 years since 2014, and that's a solid sign that the talent and the opportunity are there for Drake London. He just needs better quarterback play to unlock it. Now, he should have that in Kirk Cousins this year, who's joining the Atlanta Falcons and is known for feeding his wide receiver one, because over 5 healthy seasons with the Vikings, Cousins averaged nearly 145 targets per year to his top wide receiver. And when London got the ball last year, he showed what he can do. In games where he had more than 8 targets, he averaged 16 fantasy points per game, which would have put him as the wide receiver 11 in points per game last year. And that's the kind of upside that we're talking about with Drake London. I know some people might think London's ADP is a little high, but I'm all in on his potential this year. He's the clear-cut top guy in Atlanta, and with an offense that should take some hints from the Rams over years past, who have also loved to target their wide receiver ones, I think he's in line for career highs across the board. So if you're looking for a player who could return wide receiver 1 value without having to use a first-round pick on that player, Drake London might be your guy. Now, the second player I want to talk about will be Dalton Kincaid, tight end for the Buffalo Bills. And if you're looking to grab a tight end in the middle rounds without paying up for somebody like Laporta or somebody like Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid should be on your radar. He's got as much upside as those 2 guys, and you won't have to use the premium draft capital to go get him. It's easy to forget just how good Kincaid was as a rookie tight end. He had 7 top 12 finishes and was one of only 10 rookie tight ends since 2000 to average over 9 PPR points per game. Plus, he finished last season in the top 10 among all tight ends in catches and yards. And that was on a Bills offense that still had Stephon Diggs dominating the target share. But now Diggs is out of the picture, vacating 160 targets, and Gabe Davis is gone too, and that opens up a ton of opportunities for Kincaid in his second year. It's not a stretch to imagine him stepping up as the #1 receiving option in this offense for the Buffalo Bills. Another thing to keep in mind is the potential for positive touchdown regression. Kincaid only found the end zone twice last year, but with more targets coming his way, it wouldn't be surprising to see that touchdown number go up as well. With a bump in both targets and touchdowns, Kincaid feels like a can't-miss breakout at the tight end position, which is one of the hardest positions to hit at. And don't forget, Kincaid isn't your typical tight end either. He's more of a hybrid wide receiver type of tight end. I say this because he lined up in the slot on 60% of his targets last year, which gives him a sky-high ceiling in an offense led by Josh Allen, who is fantasy football's quarterback #1. So if you're looking for a tight end that can break out and has serious tight end 1 potential, Dalton Kincaid is worth the pick at his current ADP. Now, the third player I want to talk about is going to be a rookie. It's going to be Caleb Williams for the Chicago Bears. And this guy was the 2022 Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He threw for over 10,000 yards and 93 touchdowns during his college career, and he only threw 14 interceptions. There should be no need for an explanation as to why he was the first overall pick in the NFL draft, and Williams is stepping into what might be the best situation ever for a quarterback taken first overall. He's joining a Chicago offense that's absolutely loaded with talent. You have DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, who are both coming off of career best seasons, and now they've added Pro Bowlers Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift, plus first-round pick Rome Odunze to this offense as well. With that kind of firepower around him, Williams is set up for success immediately at the NFL level. The Bears offensive coordinator Shane Waldron is known for a pass-heavy approach, which is perfect for a quarterback with Caleb Williams' skill set, and I think this system is going to give him the potential to finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback by the end of the year, following in the footsteps of last year's rookie breakout, CJ Stroud. So if you're still nervous about drafting Caleb Williams, don't be. The hype around Caleb Williams is real, and he's got more rushing upside than people realize, which is only going to boost his fantasy floor, and I truly believe he is a can't-miss quarterback prospect, so if you do take the chance on Caleb Williams, you can definitely reap the reward with a top 12 finish out of another rookie quarterback here in 2024. Now, the next player we'll talk about is Achane for the Miami Dolphins, and Achane is one of the most electrifying players in the NFL right now, but he's also someone who might make fantasy managers in your league probably a little bit nervous to draft him. Now, let's start with the good stuff, the efficiency numbers. Achane was a beast last season. He ranked second amongst all running backs in yards after contact per attempt. He also led the NFL in runs of 40+ yards with 5 of them. Oh, and by the way, he did this on only 103 carries. For comparison, the next best player was Breece Hall, who had 4 of these runs on 223 carries. That just shows you how explosive Achane is. He's the kind of player who can win you a fantasy week with just one big play. And if you dig deeper, the numbers get even better. Achane ranked first in yards after contact, breakaway run rate, fantasy points per touch, and yards per carry last season. These stats scream playmaker, and it's clear that when Achane touches the ball, good things are going to happen for your fantasy football teams. Now, I get it. Fantasy football, it's all about weighing risks, and some managers might be worried about Achane's durability, especially after he missed time as a rookie. But here's the thing. Achane has league-winning potential. If you project his numbers over a full 17-game season, he was on pace for over 1,500 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns. That's the kind of upside that can carry your team to a championship. Sure, there are going to be other names in the Miami backfield, and it might look a little bit like a committee at times, but Achane is the one with the highest ceiling. He's a true wild card for our fantasy football rosters who can break long plays and crush your opponent's hopes and dreams with one big run any given week. So if you're like your league mates and you're thinking about fading Achane, do so at your own risk, because you could be passing up on a player that really does carry your teams to a fantasy football championship. Moving on to my next player, we are going to talk about Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts, and Anthony Richardson is hands down the top breakout candidate among the 2023 rookies heading into their second year. And unfortunately, we only got to see him in action for 4 games last season, with 2 of those games being cut short due to injury. Now, here's the thing. Richardson led all quarterbacks in fantasy points per dropback last year, showing us just how valuable a mobile rushing quarterback can be for our fantasy football teams. And in the games that he did play, he scored 4 rushing touchdowns and racked up 136 rushing yards. So he's basically showing us the fantasy cheat code that he can be when he's on the football field. Now, looking at the 2 games where he did have a full workload, he finished as the quarterback 4 and the quarterback 2 for those weeks, rushing 10 times in each game and averaging 25.75 fantasy points per game in those matchups. That's the kind of impact we saw from guys like Jalen Hurts, and it's the kind of performance that can really elevate your fantasy football team. Pair Richardson's raw athleticism with head coach Shane Steichen's up-tempo offensive style, and you've got a recipe for fantasy success. We've seen similar situations with rookie quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, who struggled as passers but became fantasy stars in their second seasons. So here's the question you have to ask yourself. Does the reward outweigh the risk? If Richardson stays healthy, he could be a game changer and might even rise to the top as the quarterback 1 in fantasy football. So if you're looking for a potential league winner, Anthony Richardson is definitely worth the consideration in your drafts during the 2024 season. And then the last and final player that I think will break out in 2024 will be Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets. And Garrett Wilson is one of the most intriguing wide receivers for fantasy football this season. And really, it's because he's been primed for a breakout for many years now. It's just not ever happened. Wilson has already set the record for the most targets through 2 seasons with 315 targets. However, the quality of those targets hasn't been great. He's been catching passes from a rotating cast of Jets quarterbacks in Mike White, Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle. There's a whole bunch of other guys. The reality is they've all been very bad. And you add the team's struggles with the consistency in the offense, not a lot of scoring opportunities, and it's no wonder why his fantasy results have been a little bit frustrating. Now, despite all of that, Wilson still managed to top 1,000 receiving yards in each of his first 2 years. I think that in itself is a remarkable feat given the quarterback play that he's had to endure during that time. And last year was supposed to be his breakout year, but then Aaron Rodgers had an Achilles injury in week 1, which kind of derailed those plans. But here's the good news. If Rodgers can stay healthy this season, which it does seem like he's healthy right now, Wilson has a real shot at pushing for a top 10 finish among the wide receivers. It's easy to picture him getting a ton of targets from Rodgers because we've seen it before in training camp last year, and we're seeing it again this year. And Rodgers has supported 23 different players with 7+ touchdowns in a season, and that would be a massive jump for Garrett Wilson because he's only had 7 touchdowns through the first 2 years of his career already, so 7 in 1 season, that would be great for Garrett Wilson. So if you've been holding out hope, I truly do believe that this year is the year Garrett Wilson steps up into that elite wide receiver 1 territory, and with the better situation around him, Aaron Rodgers under center, I do think that this is the time that he does take that leap. So there you guys have it, some breakouts for fantasy football. If you want to know busts, sleepers, and values, we've done those videos as well. Just go check them out on the channel. As I've mentioned, if you're not subscribed, go subscribe. We have a goal of 3,000 subscribers by week 1. Also hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video, found the content actionable and or entertaining. And last but not least, go join the Discord. I do have a free Discord linked in the description, helping you guys with your fantasy football drafts. With all of that being said, I have nothing else for you today, so I will see you on our next video. But until then, peace out.